There are legends, and then there are the people who don't even try to be a legend. They just wake up, grab a cup of coffee and a basketball, and become one. Larry Bird was that kind of legend. Welcome back to The Story Behind the Story, the podcast where we peel back the layers, dust off the memories, and discover the truth hiding behind the box scores. I'm your host, Brian Smith, someone who spent the 1980s and 90s wishing I could see Larry Bird play live. And now I spend the 2020s regretting that I never did. Today I'm diving into the life, the myth, the trash talk, the rivalry, the stubbornness, the brilliance, and the French lickness of Larry Bird. This isn't the same old Bird story you've heard 1,000 times. This is the story behind the story. Larry Joe Bird was born in 1956 in West Baden Springs, Indiana, but he'll always be known as the kid from French Lick, a town so small you could sneeze and accidentally cross the city limits. His childhood wasn't easy. Money was very tight. Life was tough. Larry's dad committed suicide when he was a young boy. Basketball wasn't a hobby. It was an escape, a way out, a way forward. From the moment he picked up a basketball, people noticed something different. Not flashy, not loud, not trying to impress anybody. At Springs Valley High School, Bird averaged 31 points, 21 rebounds, and 4 assists his senior year. That's not a stat line, that's a cry for help from opposing coaches. He became the school's all-time leading scorer, and Indiana University, the powerhouse, came calling. Which brings us to one of the most important story behind the story moments of his life. Larry Bird arrived at Indiana University in 1974, ready to play for Bob Knight, the general himself. But here's the truth most people gloss over. Larry Bird wasn't ready for Indiana, and Indiana wasn't ready for Larry Bird. The campus was huge, the culture overwhelming. The expectations were suffocating. And Larry, a quiet kid from a tiny town, felt like he'd been dropped into Times Square on New Year's Eve. So, after 24 days, he packed up, got in his car, and he drove home. Bob Knight later said he understood. He didn't blame Bird. He even admired the honesty of it. Knight's reaction wasn't anger. It was respect. He said Bird wasn't afraid to be himself. And that's the truth. Larry Bird didn't bend for anyone. Not then, not ever. Enter Bill Hodges, the assistant coach at Indiana State. Hodges heard about this kid, this 6'9" mystery who had walked away from Indiana, and he decided he had to find him. Literally. Coach Hodges drove to French Lick. He knocked on doors. He asked around town. He went to Larry's mother's house. He was determined to find him. Coach Hodges knew the little town of French Lick would only have one blonde kid who was 6'9", and he found him, coming out of a laundromat, carrying a basket of clothes. And when he finally tracked him down, he didn't give a speech. He didn't promise fame. He didn't sell him a dream. He simply said, "Larry, we want you as you are." Larry said, "You really need to find my cousin. He is a really great basketball player. It would be a shame if you never got a chance to see him play. He's that good." Coach Hodges looked Larry in the eye and stated, "Larry, people will say the same thing about you." And that was enough. Larry Bird had been working for the city, riding on the back of a garbage truck. Those days were over. Bird enrolled at Indiana State, and the rest is Sycamore-colored history. Larry Bird turned Indiana State, a school better known for agriculture than athletics, into a national powerhouse. He led them to a 33-0 record in the 1979 NCAA championship game, where he met a man who would shape the next decade of basketball, Magic Johnson. That game, watched by 35 million people, including me, didn't just change college basketball. It changed the NBA. It changed sports. And it changed culture. Magic had the better team that night, and he won. But Bird won something bigger, a rivalry that would become a friendship, and a friendship that would become a brotherhood. Larry Bird joined the Boston Celtics in 1979 and immediately transformed the franchise. The Celtics had the largest increase in wins from the previous season in NBA history. Bird won Rookie of the Year over Magic, 3 NBA championships. He won 3 MVPs in a row, 12 All-Star selections. And he did it all without ever jumping higher than a phone book. But here's the thing, Larry Bird didn't need to jump. He just needed to think faster than everyone else. And he did. We can't talk about the legend of Larry Bird without discussing the rivalry with Magic Johnson. Maybe the best thing to happen to basketball since Naismith invented the game. Together, they saved the NBA. Ratings that were plummeting in the 1970s rose again. Bird and Magic created new fan bases and an East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Magic and Bird weren't just rivals. They were foils, opposites, mirror images. Magic was Showtime. Bird was blue-collar brilliance. Magic was Hollywood. Bird was French Lick. But the respect was real, and it was mutual. Magic said Bird was the greatest competitor I ever faced. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said Bird was one of the smartest players ever. Isaiah Thomas said Larry Bird is so good, it's frightening. And these weren't just compliments. They were truths coming from the greatest stars of the game. Bird and Magic met in the 1984 NBA Finals, and the Lakers blew the Celtics off the floor in Game 3. Afterward, Bird walked into the press room, looked the world in the eye, and said, "My team played like a bunch of sissies." You could hear the gasp from Boston to Bakersfield. But his Celtic teammates heard something else, a challenge. They responded, they fought, they clawed, they came back and won the series. Now that's leadership, not the pretty kind, the real kind. Larry Bird wasn't just a trash talker. He was a prophet. He didn't just tell you he was going to score. He told you where, when, and on whom, and then he did it. One night, Magic Johnson was injured and sitting on the bench. Bird walked over to him and said, "You just sit there and relax. I'm going to put a show on for you tonight." Magic told Bird to get out of his face. Then he watched in amazement as Bird scored 60 points. Magic said it was like watching a man paint a masterpiece. We go to 1987, the Eastern Conference Finals. Pistons versus Celtics. Detroit had the game won. There were 10 seconds left. Isaiah Thomas inbounded the ball.
Thomas wants to get it in quickly. Does to Lambier. Stolen by Bird on the cut to DJ. Yes! Yes, and a foul!
And then, like he'd been shot out of a cannon, Bird appeared, stole the pass, and fed Dennis Johnson for the winning layup.
Well, this balcony is rocking and swaying right now. It's supposed to be made of steel. What a play by Larry Bird.
Boston Garden shook. Isaiah Thomas said afterwards, "Larry Bird is the truth. He does things you can't explain." That play wasn't instinct. It wasn't luck. It was Larry Bird seeing the game 2 seconds before everyone else. In 1986, Converse brought Magic and Bird together for a commercial. Magic expected Hollywood. What he got was French Lick. He met Larry's mom, Georgia Bird, who cooked for him like he was one of her own sons. Magic later said that day changed everything. It was the moment he realized Larry Bird wasn't just a rival, he was family. And from that day on, they were brothers. By 1992, Bird's back was failing him. He could barely sit. He could barely stand, but he could still play. And he earned his spot on the Dream Team, the greatest basketball team ever assembled. He wasn't the star anymore. He didn't need to be. He was the elder statesman, the legend, the man the others looked up to. And when the Olympics ended, so did his career. This podcast is The Story Behind the Story, and here are some little-known truths about Larry Bird. He once played an entire game left-handed, as he said, just to save my right hand for the Lakers. He shoveled his own driveway before games, even as an NBA superstar. He once told a rookie, "I'm going to get the ball right here and shoot it in your face." And then he added, "There's not a thing you can do about it." He was the only player Magic Johnson said he feared. He never wanted fame, just competition. Larry Bird didn't try to be different, he just was. For me, Larry Bird wasn't just a player. He was the player. Yes, Michael Jordan was the greatest athlete in the NBA in the 1980s and 90s. No one could stay in the air longer, make the spectacular shot, or fight harder to win than Michael Jordan. But the one I watched on TV with awe, the one I tried to imitate in the driveway, the one I wish I could have seen live just once in that old Boston Garden where the parquet floor creaked like it was whispering secrets, was Larry Bird. No one thought or played the game quite like him. I missed that chance, but I didn't miss the magic when the Celtics were on TV, because Larry Bird wasn't just a basketball player, he was a moment in time. And moments like that don't fade, they echo. And so, as we look back on the life and legend of Larry Bird, the hick from French Lick, the Sycamore Savior, the Celtic Assassin, the trash-talking prophet, and the reluctant superstar, we see a man who never tried to be anything other than himself. And there's a lesson to be learned in that. And somehow, that was enough to change basketball forever. And that's the story behind the story of Larry Bird. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. The echoes of the past are waiting to be heard. My name is Brian Smith, and we are history.
I never forget driving, and I'm listening to a game. It's New Mexico State playing Indiana State.
New Mexico State. Up comes Greg Webb on the move. Fire shoots from 12 and missed it. Bird has it, lost it, and throws it across the foul net. Got a breakaway, and he's got it.
And I'm listening to the radio, and I have no clue of the players on either team. All of a sudden, This name keeps coming, Bird.
Staley looks for Bird. He downloads the baseline, puts it up and in on a beautiful move by Larry Bird.
He goes to the right, Bird.
Down low to Bird. He's there and has it.
He makes the shot, Bird.
Open Bird in the left corner. He'll fire it. He got it. That's 14 for Larry from the deep left corner. You can't let him shoot that corner shot. He'll kill you with it.
I said, God damn, who is Bird? Bird. You know, here's Bird. And Bird this.
Bounce to Leroy. Lobs to Bird. There he is. He got it. And a foul is called, and it will be on New Mexico State.
And Bird, oh, did you see the pass that Bird made? I can't see it, but I'm just trying to imagine it.
Bird from 12 has it. Larry with 23. Next to Bird. He's open from 19. Larry had it. 33 for Bird. Bobby Heat. Bird in the lane now. Spins, open, and just lays it up and in. Just rolls it off his fingertips for 35.
And when the time I got to the end, I said, damn, that brother can play. Hey, let me tell you something. When I got the newspaper the next morning and saw Larry's picture, I said, damn.